I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour. Hey everyone, welcome back to the News du Jour, a calmer space to consume the news. So today's episode is going to be extra long because I had all my stories picked out. I had written most of them, and then Russia bombed Poland. And obviously this is pretty earth-shattering, so we are going to dive into that right here at the top of the episode, all of the details, all the implications that we know as of now, and, you know, it's going to be a little exhaustive. So buckle up, we have important stuff to go over. Before I launch into that, though, I did want to encourage you guys to listen to yesterday's bonus episode because it is just super important as well for the current moment. Additionally, I want to let you guys know that Republicans are only one seat away from a majority in the House at the time I'm recording this. So it pretty much looks like they have it snatched, and I will definitely let you guys know when that is official. So again, if you don't follow us on social media, that is a faster way to get this type of update. So be sure to give us a follow if you want to know the news a little bit faster. And then first up, we will dive into Poland being attacked by Russia. So over the past 24 hours, we have seen the heaviest missile strikes against Kyiv since the start of the war. And there were certainly fatalities, but it's kind of impossible to say right now how many. When Putin is in a corner, his move is typically to do this, more missile strikes. They don't really help him gain ground or win anything. They are simply spiteful when he's been embarrassed. It's his way of lashing out. And with the Russian retreat from Kherson, he has certainly been embarrassed. And his best efforts are not working. Additionally, as we discussed yesterday, the meeting between Xi Jinping and President Biden went okay. They both agreed that the war in Ukraine was bad for everyone. So this meeting between the president of China and the president of the US, two major world powers, this could have further embarrassed Putin because China has always kind of been seen in the past as one of his very few allies, but it's been a loose relationship. And so with him kind of, not that he cozied up to the U.S., but things didn't go badly, and they agreed that the war in Ukraine was bad. That could have embarrassed Putin as well. And that then brings us to Poland. So in an effort to lash out even further beyond the missile strikes in Kyiv that were horrendous, Putin hit a NATO territory. The U.S. has vowed to defend every inch of NATO territory in the past. So what does this mean? Will the U.S. actively engage in this war now? I watched a press briefing for us with the State Department's principal deputy spokesperson, Mr. Patel, and 2 people were killed in Poland, at least. That's what we know as of now. The State Department did not have a lot to say about it as of yet. Poland is holding an emergency security meeting as I'm writing this. They noted that they are in touch with all the other NATO allies, including the United States, and that they are increasing quote-unquote combat readiness. The U.S. is under contract to work within NATO to protect NATO countries. So if we were to act, it would be in concert with our allies and not alone. That said, this is certainly an all-out provocation by Putin, very direct, who of course is denying it and actually blaming Poland, saying that they are making it up to escalate the situation. Moldova, a neighboring country that's not part of NATO, was actually also hit by these same airstrikes and has reported a major power outage. The situation is set to be discussed at Wednesday's G20 meetings as well. So we'll definitely keep you guys posted on anything that comes out of those conversations too. NATO countries such as Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia quickly took to the internet to publicly align themselves with Poland and offer their condolences. France, however, put out a statement urging caution and the need to tread lightly while we gather all the facts. President Zelensky of Ukraine put out a statement saying, quote, "We need to put the terrorist in its place. The longer Russia feels impunity, the more threats there will be for everyone within the reach of the Russian missiles," end quote. He also stated, quote, "We will survive everything," end quote. Approximately 10 million Ukrainians are currently without power, and many of those people also do not have access to water right now. The situation is worsening as we sink deeper into wintertime. And at the end of the day, NATO was formed to protect the world from the Soviet Union. And there's actually a line in their alliance treaty that reads, quote, "An attack against one ally is considered an attack against all allies," end quote. The only other time that this article, Article 5, has been invoked was 9/11 when the United States was attacked. And this whole fight between Ukraine and Russia really began, if you guys can remember, as a fight about NATO. Putin could not bear to see Ukraine even considered being a member of that alliance. So now things are really coming full circle with his all-out attack on an actual NATO territory. This is a horrible turn of events, and we can only pray that the NATO allies work together to squash this and do not react rashly. We'll be sure to keep you guys posted, and if you're looking for quicker updates, definitely consider following us on social media. All of our links are in the show notes. And then I did want to touch on some Banksy pieces that have been discovered around bombed out areas of Ukraine. So this is one of the stories I had prepared for before this big news, but I still think it's relevant and maybe more poignant now. Banksy has confirmed that these pieces are his, and there's 7 of them. In typical Banksy style, they all have deeper meaning. So I'm just going to go ahead and run through the 7 different pieces that he's left around Ukraine. So first up is a gymnast performing on a pile of rubble. The second shows a grown man being flipped upside down by a child, both in martial arts uniforms. And this one is kind of potentially a reference to Putin, who lost his black belt for some reason. Don't really have more details there, but he could be hinting that, Ukraine is the child in the scenario, flipping Putin on his head. A third one shows a gymnast twirling a ribbon with a neck brace. Fourth, another shows 2 children using a tank trap as a seesaw. A fifth shows a woman in a robe and curlers wearing a gas mask and sporting a fire extinguisher. A sixth one shows an old man with a big beard in a bathtub wielding a baseball bat. And the last Banksy is particularly lewd, so if you have little ears around, you might consider fast forwarding through this, but it could be poignant though, depending on how you want to interpret it. It shows a huge military truck transporting something on its flatbed, but in the place on that flatbed, instead of machinery, is a penis that was already graffitied onto the wall. The idea is that the penis resembles a nuclear warhead, and this also could be construed as a comment on Putin's need to use nuclear to prove something to everyone. We'll leave it there. Banksy always uses his fame to call attention to important issues, and this is no exception. These pieces all have deeper meanings that I could spend a lot of time going into, but you can see them online. Some are on his website, but definitely take a look if you have time. And I think lastly for today, we will touch on the Mike Pence interview. And so I'm not going over on time with you guys, and everything else I had planned will just get shifted to tomorrow's episode. But the Mike Pence interview went live late Monday night, and you can actually now stream it on Hulu, and it's not super long. It's under an hour. It was entitled Mike Pence Breaking with the President, and it was a first-hand account of the events on January 6th from his perspective. He described having his wife and daughter at his side that day and insisting on staying at the Capitol rather than fleeing the scene against his security's advice. He recalled saying to his daughter, quote, "It does not take courage to break the law. It takes courage to uphold the law," end quote. They heard people chanting that he should be hanged, and the rioters got very close to him physically. He described how the president did not speak to him to even ask if he was okay for 5 days afterward. He said the two shared a pretty emotionally tense conversation then after those 5 days and have barely spoken since. That said, the former president has a book that came out yesterday about his experiences in the White House, and there are certain things that just don't really seem to jive. Like, up until the day before the riots, Pence was tweeting that there would be big evidence shown on January 6th. So he did kind of stoke the flames of what was to come. The consequences of what he participated in were what happened on January 6th. Also, he noted that the last thing he said to the president was, "I'll be praying for you." And the president said, "Don't bother." Overall, though, the interview rang through as honest, remorseful, and heartfelt. Though he was calm and measured throughout, he seemed genuinely outraged at the former president's behavior, and it seemed that he saw the depths of what was at stake on that fateful day. Okay, I think I can sneak in one more story after all. So we're going to talk about Jeff Bezos giving away his wealth. So alongside his girlfriend, Jeff Bezos sat down with an exclusive interview to CNN to announce that he would be giving away the vast majority of his vast wealth over the course of his lifetime. He says that he plans to give the largest amount to fighting climate change. Thank God. And the second largest amount in an effort to unite humanity, as he put it. And he said that's because we are facing such deep divisions as a human race. This is the first time that he's made such an announcement, and the pair also wanted to underscore the Bezos Courage and Civility Award, which they plan to give to a recipient each year who sows understanding and does good in the world. This year, the award went to Dolly Parton, for example. They announced a $100 million grant to Dolly as part of her award. But the couple acknowledged that the biggest challenge they face is managing the donations, simply because there's so much cash flow. They did not give a lot of details on their game plan, but he has committed to giving away $10 billion over the next 10 years through the Bezos Earth Fund, which will focus its energy on reducing the world's carbon emissions. Even though he's no longer leading the company, Jeff Bezos is still involved with helping the company reduce its environmental impact. They've made more pledges to reduce emissions, but in 2021 actually saw an increase in emissions as the company grew. That said, while we're on the topic of Jeff Bezos, we probably should be talking about Amazon losing $1 trillion. That's setting a new record, you guys. I'm not going to go into that today because we're running out of time, but I'll put that at the top of the episode for tomorrow. Not to leave you guys on a cliffhanger intentionally, but I just want to respect your time. And that is the news du jour. Today, I wanted to leave you guys with the quote, "The greatest crimes in the world are not committed by people breaking the rules, but by people following the rules. It's the people who follow orders who drop bombs and massacre villages." If you enjoyed this episode, please consider becoming a patron of our podcast. For $7.99 a month, you can unlock tons of perks like breaking news text messages so that you're never out of the loop. Tons of bonus episodes are already up there ready for you to binge, and a discussion board full of networking opportunities and much more. Go to www.patreon.com/sugarfree media today to become a patron. This is the best way to support our show. Our patrons make News du Jour possible. But a couple other ways to support our podcast are rate and review on whatever podcast platform you use to listen, share on your social media, you have influence, tell your friends, family, and colleagues that you love News du Jour and why you listen. You can also follow us on social media under sugarfreemedia.co on Instagram, just sugarfreemedia, all one word, on TikTok, and sugarfree_media on Twitter. We also have a weekend newsletter called Dreamers Digest that's full of dreamy content recommendations for your weekend and a life update from yours truly. Sign up today on our website, www.sugarfreemedia.co. Our music is by Joey Lavoie and Nicholas Foster. Our cover art is by Hannah Pierce Photography. Our Sugar Free Media logo is by Catherine Jezik Designs. Any twinkling or little footsteps you might hear in the background are by my dog, Rhett. He's a rescue pup and always records with me. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time on News du Jour.
Broadcasting from Oklahoma.